He's retired from the NYPD. As a police officer, he was part of the team on scene when a plane crashed in the Hudson River, known as Miracle on the Hudson. He's here to talk about that, plus the dark sense of humor, why police seem to have it, what it does, and more. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Today radio show. I'm your host. My name's John J. Wiley. In addition to being a radio broadcaster, I'm a retired police sergeant. For the latest news articles and much more, check out our website, letradioshow.com. In the Law Enforcement Today show, we'll be joined by special guests. We'll be talking about their experiences and issues affecting law enforcement officers, first responders, their families, their community, and victims of horrendous crimes. Be sure to like us on Facebook. Our page is Law Enforcement Today Radio Show. Check out the daily articles on our website, letradioshow.com. And while you're there, download our free app. The Law Enforcement Today show is brought to you by 4patriots.com. That's the number 4patriots.com. They offer the world's best survival food, the Patriot Power Generator 2000X and more. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use code LET to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store. You'll also get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order. Plus, free shipping on orders over $97. And a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com. That's a number 4patriots.com. Use code LET to get 10% off. Connecting with us from the New York area with Oscar Smith on the phone. Oscar is retired NYPD detective, and he is also author of the book Natural Strength. Get more details about him, his book, his fitness training, o-d-studiogroup.com. Oscar, thanks for your service and thanks for being a guest on the show. Very much appreciated.
No, good afternoon to you, and thank you for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and it's always good to talk with brothers and sisters in law enforcement, and no matter how long you've been retired, you're still blue, and you're still part of the family. That doesn't change. And the funny thing is, Oscar, it doesn't matter where in the country you served. I was in Baltimore, you're in New York, and it feels like we're related.
Correct. It's funny you mention that because I said, and you probably experiences of other fellow law officer brothers and sisters out there, is that you never wanted to be that guy when you meet a younger officer when you retire and you start talking war stories. You're like, I don't want to be that guy. And also you automatically become that guy because you share just what you said, that love of the force, the love that you have with your brothers and sisters and everyone around the country and the world.
Yeah,
it's a great feeling when law enforcement, and you know, it's just one of those things where I catch myself and my wife has to kind of kick me. She's like, he's got to go. You know, he's got a job to do.
Don't be that guy. Look, I tell this story all the time. When a few years after I retired and after 9/11, and they had NYPD officers at the scene, and I'm a retired sergeant, and I was there for something else. But I walked up to them and I wanted to say, just very simply, I'm a retired police sergeant, and you know, my thoughts are with you all. I can't imagine losing that many people. I made it like 2 words and started bawling, and I could not find the words. But the funny thing was, they didn't know me from Adam, and it didn't matter.
Correct.
They were like, they understood, and to this day, I can't explain it. And you know what? To be totally honest with you, Oscar, I don't try to explain it anymore.
No, you don't. You know what it is that what was the line we always had as cops, and I think every cop has this: you can't make this stuff up. Some of the things that we see, the things that we do, experience, and it takes a toll on you. And you know, and I believe every law enforcement, everyone who goes into law enforcement, generally want to help people. And that was the whole thing. You had a calling to do so, whether, like before, I was a lifeguard for many years on the beach and dealing with the public. People don't understand, when you're dealing with the public, especially in life and death situations, they look for someone to help them. And we've all experienced that, from car crashes and to, you know, shootings to homicides. And, you know, how do you comfort people? What do you do? And they look at the law enforcement officer, male or female, for that comfort, for that guidance that they need. You know, and that's very important.
And I don't know about you, but they didn't really teach us that in the academy. they did all kinds of other training, but how to talk to people really wasn't one of them.
No, it wasn't. Usually what it was, I always had a joke with everything. Like, when you came to a scene, whatever, like, okay, let's wrap it up and let's go eat. Everything was about, let's go eat.
Exactly, because you never knew when you'd have a chance to finally get something to eat.
Correct.
And it was busy stuffing a hot dog or some gas station food down my throat. And, man, I'll tell you, I'm paying the price as a result. I try to really watch what I eat, Oscar. As the older I get, the better care I take care of myself. And I wish I'd done that when I was younger.
Well, it is one of those things that, just like you said, the public doesn't understand. We don't have a set time all the time to eat as law enforcement, so you try and chow down as much as you can when you can. And unfortunately, that bad habit does travel with you for a little bit. And, as you start to go, like, you know what, I'd rather have a grilled chicken salad than having some, slices of pizza double on top of a soda and everything else, just something quick to go, because that was the whole thing where part of the job was like any minute you can be sitting down eating a great lunch or dinner or breakfast, and all of a sudden a call comes over and you're like, you got to go.
And it's a hot call. It usually would happen. It's like fishing. Nothing happens till you start making something to eat. No really hot calls came out until we grabbed something to eat, and all of a sudden, oh man, gotta go.
Exactly.
Or somebody would ruin it. You'd finally get a chance to sit down and eat, and someone would go up and start, hey, hands up, wasn't me, or whatever. Or they want to ask you a stupid question. You're like, oh, can I just eat my stinking burger?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a funny thing where people don't understand that. Like, cops, we all go sit in the corner or in the back of restaurants, not because, like, being mobsters who's going to come in or whatever. It's more like, I just want to get away so I can eat my food in peace.
Right.
That's what you said.
Just got a little bit of a break. I got to say this, and my hat's off to men and women, brothers and sisters doing a job today, but I see them taking photos. Hey, here we are. There's 30 of us having breakfast at this restaurant or having lunch, and I'm thinking, where the heck do they work where they can all get together and eat at the same time? Because it was never, ever, ever like that for us.
Yeah, I know. It's a different mentality today with the law enforcement. And I hate to say for a lot of them, you got to have situational awareness, like on their phones and hanging out. And, that professional appearance is very important as well. Like, I love there was my SOD chief, Chief Camadana, and he was in charge of all special operations for the NYPD, ex-Marine. And this man had been 60 years old, and he definitely could have tossed me around, the floor. He kept himself in shape. His uniform was impeccable, and he just oozed that whole thing of professionalism and that strong environment. And that was his whole thing, is like, does your uniform demand respect?
Yep.
So if you look like a slob, people are going to treat you like a slob. Well, and that was the whole thing where...
That was the saying we had, that sometimes you didn't know what to do. And a lot of times you didn't know what to say, but really carried a lot of weight when you looked professional, and it would buy you some time to come up with an answer for someone. Here's the reality. I came out of the academy, and I'm telling you, Oscar, everything was pressed. I had creases everywhere. Within a few years, I had mustard and ketchup stains on my shirt. You're lucky if you had anything that was even pressed or remotely close to being pressed.
Well, the best is when you say, when your vest ends up looking like a lobster bib. It's time to go hit the gym.
That's exactly right. We're talking with Oscar Smith. Oscar is retired NYPD, retired at the rank of detective. He is also author of the book Natural Strength, which we'll talk about later on. He is a big proponent of fitness. You get more details about what he does at his website, in his book, o-dstudiogroup.com. It's o-dstudiogroup.com. When we return, we're going to talk about Miracle on the Hudson, the dark humor of police, what it does for them, and more. If you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. This is Law Enforcement Today Show. Don't go anywhere. I promise you. We'll be right back. Authorities are now checking our grid for vulnerabilities. They've identified 9 key substations. If these substations are attacked, power could be knocked out from coast to coast for up to 18 months. Imagine a blackout lasting not days, but weeks or months. Your life would be frozen in time right at the moment the power fails. Lights all over the country would go out, throwing people into total darkness. That's why having your own solar power is more important than ever. With the new Patriot Power Generator 2000X, you get a solar generator that doesn't install into your house because it's portable. You can take it with you, even use it inside. But it's powerful enough for your phones, medical devices, or even your fridge. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use code LET to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in a store, including the Patriot Power Generator. You also get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order. Plus, free shipping on orders over $97, and a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com. That's the number 4patriots.com, and use code LET to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code LET to get yours today. Return our conversation with Oscar Smith. He's retired NYPD, and he is also author of the book Natural Strength. He is a big proponent of physical fitness. Get more information about him, what he does, his book, online at o-dstudiogroup.com. That's o-dstudiogroup.com. Miracle on the Hudson. I remember watching that happen. The news reports. Of course, I wasn't in New York. I was in, I think, Florida when that occurred. And we talked about it earlier. The academy, they did everything they could to train us. And we had yearly in-service, just like you all did, where they try to train you on everything. But you can't train for every possibility. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to be on scene when you have a big commercial jetliner with people in it crashing into a river.
It was January 15th, 2009. I'll never forget, I was doing a night tour, scheduled to do a night tour that evening. And in the scuba team, there's only 30 of us, and there's A, B, C, D squads. So 2 squads work and 2 squads are off. And I remember being in my gym and looking at the big TV, just sitting down, kind of taking a break. And all of a sudden I'm like, did that plane just land in the Hudson? I was like, what? And it was cold January day. And I was like, just what you said, train. I'm like, it was shock. I was like, is this real? That just happened? And I was like, my phone wasn't ringing off the hook. And I'm like, I think I have to go to command and see what's going on. And so the plane did land in the Hudson, and it was just one of those shocking moments where everyone was like, what do you do? And I can imagine, like at 1PP, as what we call the Puzzle Palace, just going, hey, who do we call? And it's like, okay, well, you need Marine units, you need air sea rescue, you need a scuba team. You're like, okay, we need everybody to get there as quickly as we can. And people don't understand the Hudson River and the East River. It has a 4-knot current.
Yeah.
And it's really strong. So it's either ingoing, outgoing. That was actually outgoing. So what that means for the people who aren't familiar with New York, the Hudson River goes into basically past Wall Street area to the Verrazano Bridge, which is the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean. So it's traveling that amount of, speed and distance. So I remember telling the powers that be, all of us guys there and the scuba unit, explaining to them that this plane is luckily that it's held up by the bladders, which are basically in the wings for the fuel, because the fuel, it weighs less than the water. So it put the plane, floating on top, and it was fully fueled because I think it was on its way to Seattle from New York. And that's what held the plane from sinking. And they explained to me, like, eventually this plane is going to sink and fall down. Now, spots of the Hudson River, in the middle, it's about like 30 to 60 feet, maybe max to 90 feet. And I was like, well, if this plane takes a nosedive, it's going to stick all the way up. You don't want that sitting there. And then by the Statue of Liberty, also the water is 12 to 13 feet deep. It's not that deep unless it goes by the channel, which this plane isn't going to go by. So it was a huge scramble for everyone because there were so many units of law enforcement, Metropolitan Police, Amtrak, everybody came out on the side basically on the Jersey side and that of Manhattan. And just watching this plane drift on down, and like, what do we do? I'm just watching the plane drift. And I have to say, the first guys who showed up were the ferry operators who do the ferries back and forth from Jersey to Manhattan. They came and immediately took action by the people standing on the wings, because people did jump in the water, not realizing the water's 38 degrees.
That's cold and fast.
It was freezing. It was freezing.
Oh, my goodness.
And so the ferry operators were so quick to jump into it. They were the first ones who came and just took action just by them being good Samaritans themselves and saying, look, these people got to get off the plane. We can tug along and put them on. And then our air sea rescue ship showed up. And it's only 2 guys in there, so 2 divers, a crew chief, and 2 pilots. So with that amount of people, I think it was 155 altogether, 5 crew members, 150 passengers. You can only take so many people, and the basically helicopter or the boats come. So it was great that the ferry got the people off rather quickly. So it was fantastic. No one really got hurt. People kind of pushed and shoved each other and got a few bumps and bruises here. I'm not sure what other injuries they had, but I remember a few of them jumping in the water and getting hypothermia, getting them right out really quickly. And then what do you do with this plane? So all the people are evacuated. They're all off. Now, this plane is sitting there and just kind of guiding along, and here come all the NYPD boats, the fire department, everyone. By the way, the fire department has a lot better boats than we do, just so everyone knows. They have really nice big boats. We have old work boats, which are great, and we make it all work. And as in all brothers and sisters out there in law enforcement, you don't get the best stuff to work with, and you just make it all work.
You find a way to put it together. It's a lot of it's
correct.
Done by duct tape and baling wire.
That's my favorite.
Right. Yeah.
I call it duct tape and bubble gum.
I tell people our old patrol cars, most of them were the back seats. I mean, the seat backs were held up with milk crates.
Milk crates.
Or 2x4s.
We had the milk crate. It's funny because we say that because I remember that because that was when we had the old blue and white cars, and someone leaned back too much and broke the seat, and literally, like you said. And it's funny because a lot of the public doesn't understand that. It's like you have to make do what you have. So think of an astronaut in space. It's like you got to figure this out. This is all you know. What's coming to help you.
We had an old saying, and I'm sure it's the same with New York. Is look. Suck it up. We said police in Baltimore. Suck it up. You're the Baltimore police. You got a job to do.
Correct.
And everybody's got complaints. So just shut it and go do your job. If people knew the conditions we worked in, most of the patrol cars that we had, we said 2x4s and milk crates to hold the seat up. Air conditioning didn't work. Most of the stuff didn't work in it. You were lucky if you had all the gears in it. It was just one nightmare after another, and you're praying all the times, please do not break down, because I'll be on the side of the road forever. And the other thing was, your cars ran 24 hours a day like ours did. I hope the guy or gal I'm relieving filled it up and put gas in there, because it never failed. I had to go make a gas run as soon as I got the car.
Yeah, that was always a common thing where there were notes in the car where please gas it up at the end of your shift, at the end of your tour. It's like, and everyone, sometimes you run around too much and then you generally forget. But if you didn't do it, you heard it from the veterans.
Eventually you would hear it. They give you a couple passes, and after that, it was not so much. The other thing was, hey, take your lunch debris out of the car. When you're done, clear out the chicken wing bones, all that stuff. Just get it out of there.
Oh, yeah. Well, the worst is that when you had a perp or some undesirable person in the back
Don't even start.
Grew up, and we will go on for stories on that. We're like, oh, no.
All this, by the way, is before the advent of a lot of the containment areas with the cage and the hard plastic seats and all that. So we had fully upholstered seats, and you get a drunk in there, and never failed. They'd wind up having some sort of accident where they fouled the seat, and you're like, oh my goodness. And now my wife, Oscar, laughs at me because I have such a bad gag reflex. I can't take any kind of grossness. Body fluids, doesn't matter. When we return to our conversation with Oscar Smith, retired NYPD, we're going to talk about a little bit more about Miracle and her husband. We're really going to focus on the dark humor that he and his coworkers had and what that does for police. I'll give you a hint It's a protective measure. This is Law Enforcement Today's show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. One of the most frequent questions we see is, where can I find great podcasts? Do you have any suggestions? Yes, we do. So we decided to start our own podcast network on Law Enforcement Today. That's right. You can find top podcasts about law enforcement on our website and our free app. Go to letradioshow.com, click the Be Heard tab, and there you'll find the LET Podcast Network. We'll be adding more podcasts from first responders and more. Again, to find the Law Enforcement Today Podcast Network, go to letradioshow.com and click on the Be Heard in our menu, or download our free app today at letradioshow.com.
The Harmony with Food radio show. I am your host, Meg Marie O'Rourke. In addition to being a radio broadcaster, I am a nutritionist for longer than I'd like to admit on the radio. Join my guests and I as we discuss how to live in harmony with food, from gut health issues, food sensitivities, food intolerances, and the comorbidities of obesity. Being your own healthcare advocate is achievable, and so is living in harmony with food. For the latest nutrition information blogs, check out my website, harmonywithfood.com.
Return conversation with Oscar Smith, retired NYPD. He was part of the dive team or scuba team for the NYPD during a little incident called Miracle on the Hudson, where a commercial jetliner crashed into the Hudson River. This is the Law Enforcement Today show. I got to be honest with you, Oscar. We talked about it. We laughed about it. The academy doesn't train you for this. You get there, you've got this big plane, you got people being ferried off, you got people jumping into the freezing cold Hudson River. And the thought had to cross your mind, I know what to do. When it comes to murder, bank robbery, I know what to do. What I don't know is, how do you handle a situation like that? Where do you start? Did you feel like, oh, I don't know what to do, so let's just do something. Somebody tell me what to do.
It was that way because you had all these chiefs in the mayor's office, everyone was trying to figure out. And because when the plane crashed and the time that everyone got there, it was starting to get dark. Now, the first thing was, okay, we got to secure the plane. And secure the plane, then work from there. Then we have to put people in the plane to do a quick search. So the Air Sea Rescue team came first, jumped in, went on the plane to make sure everyone was out. And meantime, the plane is moving along the Hudson, headed, like I said, from, let's say, 42nd Street all the way downtown. So everyone's out, everything's cleared out, and then explaining to the powers that be, it's a plane. You have to do something. And they're like, oh, we're tied up to the boats. And I was like, the plane is going to outweigh the boats. It's going to capsize them, basically. If we put too many on there, it's going to pull one down or the other one down. So the best course of action was like, where can we secure this plane? North Cove Marina. So we put it on the seawall of the North Cove Marina and just tied it up as best we can. Now, the temperature dropped even lower. So we get to the scene, the entire scuba team, whoever's on vacation out of town is whatever out of town, everyone is there. So we're all there, donning up our gear, everything else, go on a plane to make sure everything's secure. We realized one of the engines broke off and is in the Hudson somewhere, so we have to go back and retrieve that, which is more a salvage operation. But what was great is that everyone just came together. Everyone had a job to do. And it's like, you weren't really trained for this, but we knew, hey, let's rig this up like we rig up a car. When we float a car out of the water or a body or anything else like that, it's like, okay, we're going to rig this up as best thing. Because once we got it stationary, then we were like, okay, it's not going anywhere. It's not a pain in the butt. Now it's just basically we can go to work. And that's exactly what happened. And I remember my wife says when I got home like a day later or 2 days later, my lips were blue. It was so cold, the water.
I'll bet.
But it was one time, I have to say, everyone came together. And it was funny because everyone from our ESU, which is our equivalent to SWAT, and love our ESU brothers and sisters there, because the saying goes, when cops call, I need other help, they call ESU, like, LA calls SWAT.
Right.
So that was all they came and they stood back. They're like, no, brothers, this is your job. I'm not getting anywhere near that water. Like you guys train for that all the time.
One
and
of
that's
the
the whole
things
thing
that would amaze a lot of people is the thought that NYPD having a scuba team. It doesn't amaze me because, like, you got to be prepared for every possible scenario. But people don't think of New York City and scuba diving, do they?
No, not at all. And that's the only where air sea rescue is the only air sea rescue within 15 minutes within the tri-state area. Outside of that, it's the Coast Guard, and they're 40 minutes away by helicopter from where their base is, from what I understand. And so anything that happens in the water, like we had a horse that one time fell into the water. We had to go and mount that up. We actually had gear for that. Animals, people, people jump off the bridges all the time. And, I'll finish with a miracle of the Hudson. So we tie up the plane really quick, and then we secure everything, make sure there's no one there. We tell the chief, Chief Camadano and everything else, and the powers that be, and then the CEO of Harbor as well. And they're like, okay, next step is, okay, everything's clean and clear. Now to get the plane out of the water, and how do you move this out? And we're like, we're done. We did our job. Now you go to the guys on the land who are going to do their job, the transportation guys and everything else like that. So it were pulled together quite nicely. And the big thing was every law enforcement agency, when something happens, it's a challenge. And it's great when everything comes together and people start thinking together like a whole unit. And that's what was great about it, that everyone just pulled their own weight. Like you said, just, put your big boy pants on. Let's go. We got to do this. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, there's no time for crying. Just do your job.
Correct.
One of the great things about the response from the NYPD and everybody there was, if my memory is correct, Oscar, no one perished. No one died.
No one died. There were no fatalities at all.
That in and of itself is amazing. To have no fatalities with a plane crashing into the Hudson River, which in and of itself is a miracle, and I'm not using a pun, but then to have no one perish during the rescue. We're talking about really cold water, fast-moving water, and for a long time, I have a lot of relatives in New York, and you wouldn't even eat fish out of the Hudson River back then.
No. I explain to everyone it's black. When you go down underwater, you can't see the hand in front of your face. Even if you're touching it on your face, you can't see it. That's how dark the water is. And it's very murky bottom, like sludge, like a good foot and a half of muck, and then there's also the debris down there. So for a lot of people, they don't understand that. And, it's not the Bahamas.
No, it's not.
Like, oh, look, crystal clear water. Okay. So we had to make sure the plane was still intact. That's when we knew the engine was off. And then, making a secure assessment like, okay, how do we make sure the fuel doesn't go? Because that's going to be a big problem as well. And that was as quickly as we wanted to get the plane attached to the wall as getting it out before the fuel spills all over the place. And it becomes a huge environmental hazard. So it was great. There was no loss of life. And like I said, everyone pulled together, came together, and did what they needed what they needed to do. But it was really wild how quickly things just kept going. It was like the next day. Within, I think, 3 days, that plane was up and out and on a carrier on its way.
It's amazing. And there's people right now that are listening, and I have no idea what they're talking about. And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, to be honest.
No, well, 2009, it's kind of wild how quickly time flies.
It does.
Immediately after that, there were 2 crashes that spring and summer in Manhattan, where a helicopter collided with a small single-engine plane taking off out of Teterboro Airport. That's directly across from basically Manhattan. And then another helicopter crash in the water with a bunch of English tourists on top of it. And unfortunately, in those 2 instances, there was a loss of life. And I remember retrieving all this stuff from there and, finding its body parts, and that's what you deal with. And like during 9/11, you find body parts, and that's part of law enforcement. And as you were saying before about dark humor, you have to look at things as that they're not real. And I remember the first time in the academy, they took us to the morgue, to get us used to seeing dead bodies and all different things. And I don't want to shock the audience of people who are not in law enforcement, but
remember I told you I had that bad gag reflex? Let's please not go there.
Yeah, exactly. So they try and prepare you for that, where things are going to happen. And you develop that dark humor for that as a natural defense. It's a normal thing. So if you don't joke about it, you will cry. It hurts that much to see that, how horrific it is, what happens to people. That's a human being that you're seeing there, or what's left of them.
We're going to take a short break. We are talking with Oscar Smith. Oscar's retired NYPD, part of the team, the scuba team, A Miracle on the Hudson. And he is also author of the book, Natural Strength, and a big proponent of physical fitness. Get more details about him, his book, what he offers at his website, o-dstudiogroup.com. This is Law Enforcement Today Show. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. The place to be online is our Facebook page. Do a search on Facebook for Law Enforcement Today Radio Show. You'll get access to unique news articles, editorials, and so much more. That's Law Enforcement Today Radio Show on Facebook. And if you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. This is Law Enforcement Today Show. Return our conversation with Oscar Smith. He's retired NYPD, part of the scuba team that was on scene at Miracle on the Hudson. I got to tell you this. By the way, his book is called Natural Strength. We'll talk about it in a moment. And he's big into physical fitness. His website is o-dstudiogroup.com. I got to tell you this, Oscar. Our high school senior trip, long time ago, we're doing a circle line tour. I think it's called the boat that goes around, does the Statue of Liberty, all that stuff. What do I see floating in the river? A dead body. I was 16 years old. And it was some guy who'd been shot, and they fished him out. And it was not uncommon to have bodies floating around in that body of water, ever.
Correct. That was the easiest way, what you call floaters. People who get executed or drowned, eventually they pop. Yep. The gas in the body goes, and then it pops up, and it appears. And one time, I'll never forget, we were just on regular patrol, and we come across a floater, and we pull him out, turn him over. Oh, man, he's got 3 bullet wounds in his back. Oh, now he's a homicide.
Right.
And the detectives used to hate us for that when we would find things like guns or stuff like that. They're like, hey, you guys got an open case now. Here you go.
Do us a favor. Don't find any more work for us to do.
Pretty much. They're like, take it out to sea for us, just get rid of that. So back to the Miracle in the Hudson. So we got the plane tied up. Everything's taken care of. Everyone's fine. It's fine. Now it's basically getting the plane out of the water. And that was a rigging. So for your audience who doesn't understand, just think of large tow cables, but they're padded. And that's what you use to pick up planes, cars, things like that. And we use balloons to basically inflate them underwater with the O2 that we have. And that's how we keep things up. And, when people realize that, you rig up just the same thing that a tow truck operator will rig up a car or lift anything. The same thing was this. And it was kind of wild how everyone came in, and you just step back and let the rigger guys do their job, and then the plane went up and did its thing, went on to get on the bed. We were done, back to patrol, back to cleaning ourselves up, and next case, next situation
next
that
call
comes around. Next call.
One of the things that we did, and I can only imagine you, and it was like, I hope that the news media didn't catch what we said, because they would never fail. They would catch us laughing hysterically over something really crazy. Thank goodness they didn't record what it was, because we had some pretty dark jokes that we did with each other, especially on really horrendous scenes. And I'm pretty sure the reason why, it's a form of protection.
Correct. That is correct. It's always like a thing you have to do in order to keep your wits about you, so to speak. It keeps you in that moment of like, okay, I'm here to help, because you don't really have time to let your emotions come in, because it's a natural emotion when it's a child, a woman, an adult, it doesn't matter, male or female. When someone has lost their life, or you come upon a scene where it's a murder, a vehicle accident, a drowning, stuff like that, that was someone. And that hits you rather quickly. So you have that dark sense of humor. You come across a drowning victim, they're like, and everyone's there to help and do their best. The person is gone, and there's nothing you can do to bring them back. So someone were like, hey, those are really nice shorts that guy has on. I'm like, yeah, I think I saw those, and you're trying to enlighten everyone to make it a little bit less serious. And that's where that dark humor comes from. And it's just like you said, where news media, whatever, you try not to laugh on the camera because people get it the wrong perception of it. And we're not laughing at the situation. We're laughing to protect ourselves, because we come home, you bring that horror with you home. And there was that great movie Heat with, Al Pacino, who played the lieutenant, and he would come home and the wife would be like, you don't share with me. And he was like, oh yeah, you want me to share about the baby in the microwave that the crackhead threw in there, and stuff like that. Like, you really want me to share that with you? Because you kind of don't want your family to see the horrific things that you do go through. They're already scared enough, and all law enforcement, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, everyone, they might not come home because of something might happen. They could get shot, get killed in an accident, anything like that. And that just brings more worry to them. So you have that dark humor come to the point. And, there's certain things you do share and the things you don't share at all. And that's the whole thing where all cops, you have to develop that. I don't care who you are. You have to. If not, you'll be crying every night in your pillow.
The other thing was, and this is more of a statement from me, I don't know if you can agree or not. The other thing was, we didn't want other people that we worked with, other team members, other squad members, to think that we were losing it. So we would crack really bad jokes just to cover ourselves.
Correct. You don't want to come across that you were soft, that you were like, oh my God, I'm so like, oh. And it was a normal thing, because they look to you as a leader, like you were a sergeant. Right. Everyone's looking at you. It's like, if the sergeant breaks down and starts crying, everyone's going to start crying. It's like, all right,
Next thing you know, we're all vulnerable together, and we're wearing matching outfits, going antiquing. That's not happening in my world.
Yeah, exactly. No, not one bit.
And people love to say it's because we're macho, toxic masculinity, whatever it is. It's not. It's not at all. It's about survival.
Correct.
And I don't know how to get that through to people, Oscar. So I really don't even try anymore. One of the things that was a big coping skill for me was working out, and not only back then on a job, but even today. I tell people, I'm the guy at the gym who wears headphones on. He doesn't talk to people, because I'm praying, I'm meditating, and I'm focusing on every rep and every breath, because I don't want to think. And that seemed to help quite a bit. I know that you made some transitions with your life and physical fitness and training. That's a big part of your life, isn't it?
Correct. The scuba team is basically like the Navy SEALs at NYPD, which was explained to me. There's only 30 guys. People try out. It's a very competitive, very hard training to go through in order to get on the team. And we were the only unit in the NYPD that was allowed to sleep. We did 12-hour tours, and we went where the tide goes, as in basically if it's high tide or low tide. And we basically designed everything. And it's funny because the SOD chief, he used to call me Jacques Cousteau, because I used to go swimming by the flight deck.
Now you're making me feel old. Jacques Cousteau. I used to love that show when I was a kid.
We all loved that show back in the day. But that was the whole thing where you pride yourself in staying in shape. I would be throwing a 400-pound tire, flipping it on the flight deck where all the helicopters are. And the guys would go, they got not intimidated. They actually got encouraged. They're like, hey, can I come run with you? Can I come work out with you? I'm like, yeah, anytime. And that's the whole thing. By being in law enforcement, you have to keep yourself in shape. And it's very important, because there's nothing worse when you have some perp or some mutt throw you around like you're a rag doll. Yeah. And we've all experienced that. And there's no reason at all that don't ask for help. Get together. It's nice when I do see some precincts actually early in the morning, and the guys and girls or women, I can't say girls, but they get together and go for runs together. They go do things together. And that was nights where we used to have a contest called Fittest of the Finest, which was done by Ray Kelly. And it only lasted a couple of years where everyone came out and did something. And I was like, we used to have intercrew Olympics, we used to call that when we were lifeguards. So each crew versed the other crews. And it was nice because it created a great camaraderie, which is very important. Plus, also, when bad people see you, like I'm sure you're a very big guy, when people come and they size you up, and a bad guy was like, nope, I'm not messing with that guy. Nope.
Yeah, I'll pick a fight with someone else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to mess with that. That guy's going to hurt me.
I didn't want to fight with everybody. We had a saying, it didn't matter how big you are, how tough you are, you're the best fighter in the world. Someone's luckier, crazier is going to get you in a button and it's lights out. We're talking with Oscar Smith. Oscar, you wrote a book called Natural Strength. Tell us about the book and tell us about your website where people get more information.
My book is called Natural Strength. It's been quite a number of years in the making. Finally went out and published it. It's on Amazon, an ebook and softcover. And there's some great photos from me lifeguarding and being a policeman and air sea rescue to workouts for some of my top clients around that I've had, from celebrities to pro athletes to the mom next door. It's about you, the reader. And I want you to read. It's not about me or my accomplishments. It's about you and what you get out of it, particularly going back to becoming your inner child. When you were a kid, you went out to play. You didn't think of it as exercise. It was going out and playing. And that's what I want everyone to think about. Go back to being a kid, making friends, going to your schoolyard, participating in some sort of sports or extracurricular activity. What I see now is a lot of people, we don't socialize anymore. We don't really get together as much anymore. No. We need to go back to that and then put that into our kids. It was great. Remember when you were a kid and you went outside, your mom had to yell at you, like, make sure you're back home by 6 for dinner and things like that.
Or we'd yell, a car was coming. We knew to clear the street. Yep. This is the Law Enforcement Today Show. Ending our conversation with Oscar Smith. His website is o-dstudiogroup.com. Oscar, thanks so much for your service and thanks for being a guest on the show. Very much appreciated.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank our guests so much for coming on the Law Enforcement Today radio show. The Law Enforcement Today radio show is a nationally syndicated radio show broadcast on numerous stations once a week and growing. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, please do me a big favor. Tell a friend. I'll be back in just a couple days with a brand new episode of the Law Enforcement Today radio show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.